Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and today I am crafting with a Cottage Cuts die set. This one is called Spring Bird with Vine and it released with the Spring Easter collection, and I am going to be using this die as a stamp set. So what I've done is this is just some foam I buy by the sheet, and mine happens to have adhesive on the back. So that does make it a little bit convenient for this technique, but certainly if your foam sheets, you can use anything, fun foam, etc. If yours doesn't actually have adhesive, that's fine. You can always apply some repositionable tape or maybe a double-sided adhesive tape runner to it, and that will achieve the same thing. But I've gone ahead and die cut the entire die plate out of foam. And what I'll do is actually use these foam die cuts as stamps, and it works beautifully. You get really crisp stamping, and it's a lot of fun to do. And plus, anytime we can stretch our materials and use them in a different way, that just means you're getting more value for your money. The only thing that I would say is that the foam will have a tendency, and it depends on the die cut, but for instance, with the branch and the leaves, those are really delicate areas. So your foam is going to have a tendency to be able to shift around a little bit. And that could be a good thing because that means that you can more easily manipulate the shape, the direction of the branches, which you would not be able to do as a die cut if you were to cut it out of paper, for example. And if this were a stamp set, a photopolymer stamp set, you would have some flexibility to do that because you can kind of bend and move your stamps a little bit, but it's really easy to do that with the foam. And that could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. If you like it the way it's designed, then that's a little bit of a downside because it will shift around on you a little bit, but as well, foam can also stretch and distort a little. So that's also something to be aware of when you're handling your foam that's been die cut like this. So I've brought out my Wendy VG Make Art Station because it's really great for stuff like this. It's I think it's sold separately. This is available in my description box. I have links to it because I do use this, not, I wouldn't say all the time, every time I craft, but often, especially with a technique like this. And I love it because it does have the, what's it called? I think it's called the stamp positioning, sort of like an add-on that you can get for it. I'm pretty sure the magnetic board and the ruler and the actual 4 magnets are the only thing that you get. But if you want the stamp positioning tool that I'm using here, you, I think, have to buy that separately. But it's convenient for something like this where, just like a stamping platform, like your Misty, for example, you can use this to actually stamp multiple times in the exact same position. So there is that L-shaped plastic or acrylic piece has magnets that are embedded in that acrylic. And you just position that where you need to, which is on one corner of your acrylic block, your acrylic stamp block. And then every time you go to stamp, you always line up your acrylic block into you line up the same corner into that L-shaped piece. And that sort of serves as a little bit of a registration piece. So you always, and it's something that, you can easily butt up your acrylic block against. So I stamped the body of the bird first in the lighter of the two purples that I'm using. And then I just did a little bit of partial inking of that same, we'll call them stamps now because that's how we're using them. But the same stamp, I just brushed it lightly to give the tail feathers some darker striations to darken a little bit of the belly. So this makes the image look a little bit less flat. And I was thinking I might do the same thing with the wing. So that's why I did stamp first with that same stamp color that I stamped the body with. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that if you are using dye-based inks like I am, the ink will soak into your papers, and the more times you stamp over the same area, it does change the color and it deepens it or darkens it, so that even if you're stamping the exact same color, for example, on the wing I used the same color, but I stamped over an area of the body that already has some ink there. And so it was giving me a little bit of a line where you could see the line of the body, because that area already has some ink under there. So stamping over top of it just darkened the part where it overlaps with the wing. I didn't really like that look. So then I just, I went ahead and stamped it in the solid dark. Now the wing does have 3 parts to it that you can layer. I'm actually only going to use 2, but only because I forgot about the 3rd piece, not because of any reason other than that. But you can do the exact same thing as I'm doing here. So, the nice thing about using your dies as stamps is that you can use the same die to cut out of your favorite masking paper, and you've got a mask already there ready to go. And it's going to be the exact same, it will cover exactly to the outer edge of your stamped impression, because the same die created your stamp as your mask. So that's one thing that's really great with using your dies as stamps. And in particular, because the Cottage Cuts dies are always so detailed and have these multiple layers that you can die cut separately and layer up, you can really do what you would normally find as a layered stamp set. So you can treat the layered die set as a layered stamp set essentially, and get your multiple colors kind of showing through. And with the bottom set of feathers on the wing, I did the same thing that I did on the tail feathers, just stamping it in a lighter color, but then brushing it ever so gently with the darker color just at the tips, just to add some dimension, add a little bit of interest so that it's not so flat. Now, I've positioned where there is a die that cuts out the legs of the bird, and so I've positioned my foam die cut where I think I want it to be. I did forget to put down my mask, so you'll want to put your mask over top of your bird, and then I am not stamping the bird legs first. What I'm going to do is stamp the branch that the bird is standing on first. That way I can stamp the bird legs right over top of it. And I'm going to plan to use a very, very dark color for the bird legs so that it's actually it can go over top of the branch and still be visible. And with this branch, this is the one that you can actually move quite a bit. And if you're not careful, you could actually distort the image a fair bit if the foam actually stretches. So do be careful. And when I apply this, I ink to this. I'm just partially inking. So I partially inked up the branch in some brown. I inked up the leaves in a light green. I inked it up a second time, the leaves, just where the center of the stem is, and then I also kind of did some swiping motions so that that dark green color also extends a little bit into the leaves. And then to blend everything together, I inked up again with the lighter green for a third stamping over the leaves. So you can build up quite a lot of dimension with this, because you could have chosen maybe 3 colors and stamped and inked partially to get some really nice ombres. But I think that it's just really fun to treat your dies as stamps, even these little intricate dies as well, like the leaves. The I always forget. While I had my Make Art Station out, I could have just continued to use it for the sentiment, but I always forget about the sentiment until the very end. So then I just brought out my regular stamping platform to put my sentiment on. I do find that this style of stamping platform is a little bit more convenient for basic stamping, but for the technique that I showed earlier, I just really prefer being able to keep my my project, the paper, in one position, and then just rotate where I need to put my stamp positioning, that L-shaped piece. So I find that just a lot easier to work with. For the last finishing touches, I used a black gel pen to color in the eye. And I didn't realize, but I cut it out, but I tossed it already. There's actually a little beak. So I just drew that in black as well. And then I used a white gel pen to just dot the center, or kind of the pupil or the highlight of the eye, just to make sure that bird looks a little bit more alive. You don't want just solid black circle there. You do want to add just that little dot of white. I think it helps quite a lot. And that's my final card. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know if you'll give it a try. And until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.